You ever had one of those dreams? The ones that are so vivid, so weird that they just stick with you all day long? Maybe you dreamed you were getting married to a total stranger or a friend, or maybe not even to a person at all. Yeah, we usually just brush those off as random brain static. But for centuries, people saw them as something else entirely. Let's dive into what exactly they saw. What if every single detail in that marriage dream, who you married, how you felt about it, your own situation in real life, what if all of that was part of a really sophisticated code? See, for classical dream interpreters, this wasn't just some fantasy. It was a kind of science. It was a way to decode messages about your job, your reputation, and maybe even your own mortality.
So, in this explainer, we're going to unpack that ancient system. We'll start with the two faces of these dreams, the good and the bad. Then we'll see how your dream partner changes everything and why your own life is so critical. After that, we'll get into the truly strange interpretations. And finally, we'll meet the scholars who built this incredible world of meaning.
Okay, so the first and most crucial thing to get is this. Dreaming of marriage isn't automatically a good thing. Not at all. According to scholars like the 18th century master al-Nabulsi, a marriage dream really sits on a knife's edge. It could hold two completely opposite meanings. And the contrast is, well, it's staggering. On one hand, dreaming you're getting married could mean you've got God's care, you're about to get some great honor, or a prestigious new career. But on the other hand, that exact same theme could point to debt, being trapped, deep emotional grief, or even foretell your own death. So the meaning wasn't in the marriage itself, but in all the little details around it. So how do you know which path the dream is taking you down? Well, the very first key is the identity of your spouse in the dream. This one variable can just radically shift the whole interpretation, from a huge blessing to a terrible curse. It all starts with who you see yourself marrying. For example, let's say you dream of marrying a woman you don't know. That could be the ultimate bad omen, a sign that your death is approaching. But, and this is a huge but, if you were someone seen as having leadership potential, that same dream meant you were about to land a high-ranking job. The meaning was totally tailored to the dreamer's own life. And the symbolism, it gets even deeper and more surprising. Dreaming of marrying a dead woman? That sounds pretty grim, right? But it was actually a fantastic sign. It meant you were going to succeed at something you had totally given up on. And then, the 15th century scholar Ibn Shaheen adds this other fascinating layer. If the marriage was, consummated in the dream, that success would come about because of some clever scheming on your part. The partner's faith was also a huge symbol, but it wasn't about theology. It was a metaphor for your work life. Marrying a Jewish woman? That pointed to a profession where you'd end up committing sins. A Christian woman? That signified a false or just fruitless career. And a Zoroastrian woman meant your job would actually lead you to abandon your faith entirely. The dream was basically a moral report card on your career path. Okay, so we've seen how the dream spouse is a critical piece of the puzzle. But the next key variable is, well, it's you, the dreamer. Your real-life situation, your health, your family, all of it directly shaped the dream's message. And this is where the meaning got intensely personal. For someone who was sick, dreaming of marriage was a grim sign they might die from their illness. But for a pregnant woman, it meant she would have a daughter. For a man who was already married, it foretold even more good fortune and authority. And for a mother with a son, it meant she'd be successful in getting him married. The same dream acts like a prism, It refracts its meaning based on the life of the person having it. Okay, so far the logic has been complex, but you can kind of follow it. Now we're going to venture into the truly bizarre stuff. This is where the interpretations get wildly counterintuitive and, honestly, show off the incredible creativity of this whole system. Brace yourself for this one. It's a question you've probably never even thought to ask, but you better believe the ancient interpreters had an answer for it. What could it possibly mean to marry a dog in your dream? That's it. He will acquire a trivial matter. Not loyalty, not a terrible fate, just something insignificant. This sheer anticlimax is what makes it so amazing, isn't it? It's a perfect example of how this symbolism just completely defies our modern expectations. All right, let's try another one that would probably set off some major alarm bells today. A man dreams he's marrying his own sister. In our world, that's a straight-up nightmare. But in the world of dream interpretation, he will achieve great good. I know, shocking, right? It was seen as an incredibly positive omen. It just goes to show you can't apply our own modern cultural filters to this ancient code. The symbols had their own internal and often very surprising logic. And the list just keeps going. Marrying your mother, that means you're about to sell your property. Marrying another close female relative, you're going to become the head of your whole family. But marrying an old woman, that was a bad sign. It meant you were going to lose your money and your income. Each one was a specific, almost actionable piece of information. Now, this unbelievably detailed system wasn't just invented by one guy. No way. It was the life's work of generations of scholars who compiled, cross-referenced, and expanded this massive dictionary of the subconscious. We've mentioned a couple of them already, like Ibn Shaheen from the 15th century and al-Nabulsi from the 18th. But they were part of this long tradition that included other major figures like al-Kirmani and Ibn Ghanim. Each one added new layers of insight and helped preserve this knowledge over hundreds and hundreds of years. There's this quote from al-Nabulsi that just perfectly captures the link between dreams and your work. He says, marriage in a dream is interpreted by profession. And he gives this example. If a man dreams he married a woman and then she died, it means he's working a job that brings him nothing but exhaustion and anxiety. See? Dreams weren't just fantasy. They were a running commentary on your real working life. So if you take one thing away, it should be this. It was never about one single symbol. It was always a formula. You had to combine the state of the dreamer, plus the identity of the dream spouse, plus the specific context of the dream. And only then could you get to the true meaning. It was this holistic, multivariable equation for understanding the soul. This whole intricate system saw our dreams not as random chaos, but as a deeply structured, symbolic language. And that leaves us with a pretty fascinating question. Today, we've mostly replaced this ancient code with theories from psychology and neuroscience. But have we lost something in the process? What do we see when we look into the strange mirror of our own dreams today?